Hello, we are here at Peter's Brown house. He is going to share with us some history about his family and the Holocaust.
Hello, my name is Peter Brown. I speak very little Spanish, so I'm going to say all of this in English. Excuse me. No. My parents were Jewish. They were persons of the larger world who embraced all cultures and ideas and thought way beyond the fact of their Judaism. My father's parents came from Zaflikov, a Polish town near Lublin, the state of Lublin, I think. That was grandfather. And from Linz, Austria, my grandmother came. Grandfather Broner immigrated to New York from Antwerp, Belgium, where he had been living in 1903. And he came on the ship, the SS Carpathia, the ship that picked up the Titanic survivor in 1912, 9 years later, the same ship. He came in 1903. Grandmother Minna Eva Weinberger decided to move to New York in 1909, and her sister accompanied her on shipboard and returned to Austria as she planned to do. That sister later disappeared into the Holocaust in 1935, and we have no information about her after that. The two sisters wrote to each other from 1909 until 1935, and then my family were all bright and intelligent people who resolved to make better lives for themselves. And with intelligence and industry, they succeeded. And they gave those who came after a very good herencia. Grandfather Broner came to the United States illiterate. He could not read. And he immediately began to study English. He became a union activist for the workers. These were the days in the early 20th century when labor unions were founded. And grandfather was very much involved with that. And he had union card number 7 of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, number 7. Grandmother Broner, Minna Eva Weinberger Broner, was highly educated, and she wrote articles in English for labor publications. She was involved too. Their children were all brilliant and well educated, and variously became an urban planner, planning the growth of cities. My father, social worker, librarian, lawyer, teacher. The present generation are systems programmer. My daughter is an acupuncture, our social program director, lawyer, rancher, art historian, professor, and other kinds of educators. Edgar and I moved to Guatemala because it was not legal in the United States. And we anticipate legal re-entry very soon, possibly this year. Life in Guatemala has been an eye-opening experience, and I am aware that the United States has not used this country very well. In all honesty and with sympathy for Guatemala, I see clearly how the Guatemalans live, and I appreciate what they go through. The need for educating people about evil and human nature as an ongoing process, always educating people about what this means and what can happen, is very, very great. The need is very, very great. All it takes is for a charismatic and energetic politician of bad character who want power and who will use a segment of the population that is perceived by other people as different, like Jewish people are different from Christians and others. Use them as a scapegoat, a victim, someone to blame, we say in English, scapegoat. In order to get that power, using them to get power, that's the basic motivation of politics, money and power. Look at Hitler, for example, who was a madman, but he was a charismatic and powerful politician. Look at Donald Trump, who are much less intelligent than Hitler, but who are capable of doing great harm to people and infecting politics with evil. What we have from him is an infection in our politics in the United States, and it affects other countries too. The work of the Museo is tremendously important to all people. You are doing a great public service, and I would like to see the Holocaust education be part of school curriculum. Just today, I read of someone in the Middle East who said, only a few people died during World War II, not millions. That person hopes, I think, to connect with enough ignorant people to possibly gain some power. Or maybe that person is mad, like Hitler. It's an absurd thing to say in this day and age. The world is smaller because the media is everywhere. But I guess there are enough people who will accept what he says. Very disturbing to me to see something like that. My life in the USA has not been one of any particular ethnic identity or another. My Jewish family on the side of both my parents is one part of my identity. Another part of my identity is as a deaf person. I have been deaf all my life. Until I was 48, I had a hearing aid and I could listen. So my speech is fairly normal. But when I could no longer hear my speech changed. But it's still intelligible. People understand me. You must hear yourself to speak correctly. So my identity as a deaf person all my life has transcended all ethnic groups. The deaf people are everywhere. My college years and work life transcended all too. My marriage to a Catholic Italian-American woman, descended from 15th century Florencia, is another part of my life, and our children are Catholic. My wife and her mother are extremely respectful of all faiths and did not encourage me, but the meaning of the life of Christ made me, the meaning of the life of Christ made me get baptized as a Catholic. Yeah. After my children were small. I am not a religious person and I am not observant. I had a bar mitzvah when I was 13, but that was what some of my friends were doing in New York. We were a group of friends and we all had them, and it meant something to me, but after that, it was the last of my observancy. You know. My father's next wife is Chinese American and Lutheran. My daughters have married a Yankee whose family goes back before the American Revolution. Another daughter, I have two, married a Senegalese man whom she met when she studied French in Senegal in West Africa. My older grandson will enter a historically black college in September. He's black in Delaware, the state of Delaware. My daughter studied at Hobart and William Smith colleges in New York State, and the older one is an acupuncturist now with her own clinic in Manhattan, in New York City, even though she is an art history major, but she studied acupuncture. The younger daughter is a teacher of middle school, and her husband teaches French in a high school nearby in the Hudson River Valley in New York. My Jewish family are mostly observant and very loving, and we all appreciate each other very much. Now, after divorcing, I am an out gay man and have had no real objection to that from family. And I consider myself fortunate in that respect. Let me see the number. That's it. The rest of my notes are little pieces of information about different family members. I'm very proud of my Uncle David Thornton, who married my Aunt Frances, whose picture is on the wall over there. Frances became a social worker in the 1930s, when times were very hard and she helped people. Later she became a librarian, And when she was 58 years old, she decided to become a lawyer. So she became a lawyer, and she wrote opinions for Social Security, administrative law judges. When people who were not treated fairly by the American Social Security system went to the judges to ask for fair treatment, she advised the judges and wrote her opinion to benefit the people. She was very popular. And her husband, my Uncle David, was an educator all his life. And when the problem of school children and the American-style black school children was suffering because of racism, my uncle gave expert testimony to a lawyer who became a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. Why are the black children doing poorly? Because of the tension and the hatred from everyone else. They didn't feel well. And it was obvious. But my uncle needed to define that. And everyone sat up and took much more notice. And this became part of the Supreme Court deliberations. So we're all very proud of him. He and my Aunt Frances lived to be 93. They died 12 days apart, like their children predicted they would. Let me see, I have here. Let me tell you about the town in Poland where we all came from, Zaklarków, in the Polish state of Lublin. My grandfather, Brown, came in 1903. His older sister, Anna, came before him. But the ones in Argentina came in 1937 to Buenos Aires, not to New York. And they were a large family and they multiplied. And now they are all over Europe and Israel and Holland and the United States. They were fine until Juan Perón died. Then it didn't work for them. They had a company. They had a Welsh German franchise. They made automatic transmission. Very famous name, I forgot. And excuse me. Yeah. They left in 1937 from the town of Poland. In 1942, whoever was left, 2,000 people were taken by the Nazis and sent to the camp where they all died. Yeah. I have another cousin whose son, Kenneth Kaplan, you may have seen him on Facebook. He is a lawyer, a New Yorker who lives in Georgia now, and he keeps a database of all brown donor information. Whatever we have, we give to him, and he puts it in. He has the whole thing, and it's a great big printout. And if we want one, he will print it out and mail it to us. But when I get back, I'm going to ask for the latest edition. His mother was a teacher and social worker, and who volunteered and ran a women's rape crisis center. She was very involved with helping. What else do I have here? My father was an urban planner. The growth and development of the city and the politics thereof. And his primary area of concern was California. The state of California is a place of tremendous growth. And he had been involved for many, many years with the growth of Los Angeles and some of the San Francisco area. And when I grew up, I lived both in Los Angeles with him and in New York with my mother. My mother was a teacher who became a truant officer, as a teacher who worked with the problems of non-attendance. And she helped a lot of people who came to New York in 1959 when Castro came to power in New York, and so many people ran away. They all needed to settle. And so she had a lot of involvement with helping people find places to live, putting them in school, encouraging them to learn English quickly. And that whole community is very successful now. Because in Cuba, they had a very good society to begin with. They brought that with them. Young people, I think, like I was when I was young, are more open to the truth, to many, many different kinds of truth. than their parents and grandparents are, because they have a fresher perspective. And young people should be especially aware of the potential for evil to cause tragedy and suffering for politics in this life. Young people are more open, and I think it would be wonderful, for example, if the museum courted appeal to young people to be part of what you're doing, not just older people. You know, I'm old, I'm 76, I have all this perspective, you know. But there are things young people will do that I won't do, because it's a difference in age, at the energy and the youth.
Yeah.
So that is one message I would give you. Appeal to young people.
Thank you.
You have one right here,
Yes.
who's very dedicated.
Yeah. Yes.
And here too.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Peter.
How do I feel about what, please?
About being our friend.
Oh, I'm delighted. I'm delighted. When I happened to see on Facebook that there was such a place as the Holocausto Museum in Guatemala City, I said, Edgar, we have to go and see this place. I was so delighted. I think it's wonderful. And then you told me that in 7 years you've educated 500 people, 500 educators about the Holocaust.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
She asked me, how do I feel about being their friend? I feel wonderful. Remember how excited I was when I found them on Facebook? And I called up and they said, you can come. Yeah. Wow. And when I got to your museum, I started to cry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you have to go before you leave.
I will.
The exhibits have all the photos we've seen all our lives blown up with commentary in all the rooms. It's a museum exhibit with very good photos. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Okay.